The world today stands at a crossroads, facing a confluence of crises not seen in decades. Headlines are dominated by escalating violence, diplomatic standoffs, and economic uncertainty, raising a question that echoes with increasing urgency. Is this the beginning of World War III? To answer this, we must look beyond the headlines and consider the context, the risks, and the resilience of the international system. Let's begin in the Middle East, where the conflict between Israel and Iran has reached a critical juncture. On June 13, 2025, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, targeting Iran's nuclear and military infrastructure. In retaliation, Iran unleashed a barrage of over 150 ballistic missiles and drones against Israeli targets. The exchange resulted in significant casualties, widespread destruction, and a level of instability not seen in the region for years. This confrontation is not an isolated incident, but the latest chapter in a long-standing rivalry, fueled by mutual distrust, regional ambitions, and the specter of nuclear proliferation. The immediate consequences of this conflict have reverberated far beyond the Middle East. Global oil markets have responded with volatility as the Strait of Hormuz, through which nearly a fifth of the world's oil passes, has become a potential flashpoint. In June 2025, Brent crude oil prices surged by approximately 20%, the largest monthly spike since 2020. This has sparked concerns about energy security, inflation, and economic stability, especially for oil-importing nations. The ripple effects threaten to undermine fragile recoveries in economies still reeling from the aftershocks of the pandemic and previous crises. While the Middle East commands the world's attention, other regions are also simmering with tension. In Eastern Europe, the war between Russia and Ukraine grinds on with no clear resolution in sight. Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed grave concerns about the risk of a global escalation, warning that continued Western involvement could draw more countries into the conflict. The fighting in Ukraine has already reshaped alliances, revived discussions about nuclear deterrence, and injected a sense of unpredictability into international relations. Meanwhile, in South Asia, India and Pakistan remain locked in a protracted standoff over the disputed territory of Kashmir. Although there have been no major military confrontations in recent months, the situation remains fragile. Both nations possess nuclear weapons, and history has shown how quickly a local skirmish can spiral into a larger crisis. The world watches with apprehension, knowing that a miscalculation could have catastrophic consequences. Across the world, the United States and China continue to navigate a complex and competitive relationship. Their rivalry spans trade, technology, and military influence, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region. While direct military conflict has been avoided, both nations are rapidly modernizing their armed forces, conducting naval maneuvers, and building alliances that could shape the balance of power for decades to come. The competition is fierce, and the risk of accidental escalation, whether over Taiwan, the South China Sea, or cyberspace, remains an ever-present danger. Amidst these crises, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists has set its symbolic doomsday clock to 89 seconds to midnight, the closest it has ever been. This is not merely a metaphor. It is a stark warning about the cumulative risks posed by nuclear weapons, climate change, and the erosion of global norms. The clock reflects a world where multiple flashpoints exist, where communication between great powers has frayed, and where the margin for error is perilously thin. Yet, for all the turmoil, it is important to recognize that the world has not yet crossed the threshold into global war. The conflicts, while interconnected in their consequences, remain largely regional in scope. Diplomatic channels, though strained, are still open. International organizations, from the United Nations to regional blocs, continue to press for dialogue and de-escalation. Back-channel negotiations, economic interdependence, and the mutual recognition of the costs of war serve as powerful incentives for restraint. History teaches us that world wars do not begin overnight. They are the product of miscalculations, alliances, and a failure to resolve disputes peacefully. The current moment is undeniably dangerous, but it is not inevitable that the world will slide into another global conflagration. Leaders, diplomats, and ordinary citizens alike have a role to play in demanding accountability, supporting peaceful solutions, and resisting the forces that drive conflict. It is also crucial to understand the unique features of today's world. Unlike in 1914 or 1939, the global economy is deeply interconnected. A major war would disrupt supply chains, devastate markets, and plunge millions into poverty. The presence of nuclear weapons acts as both a deterrent and a source of anxiety. No rational actor wants to risk mutual destruction. Information flows more freely than ever before, exposing atrocities, mobilizing public opinion, and holding leaders to account. At the same time, new challenges complicate the picture. Cyber warfare, disinformation, and the weaponization of technology create unprecedented vulnerabilities. Climate change acts as a threat multiplier, exacerbating resource scarcity, migration, and competition. Non-state actors, from terrorist groups to mercenaries, operate with increasing impunity, often beyond the reach of traditional diplomacy. In this environment, the risk of miscalculation is real. A missile fired in error, a misunderstood signal, or a rogue actor could trigger a chain of events with devastating consequences. That is why ongoing diplomatic efforts are so essential. Whether through back-channel talks, confidence-building measures, or multilateral summits, dialogue remains the best defense against catastrophe. So, is this the beginning of World War III? The answer for now is no. The world stands on the edge, but has not yet taken the plunge. The forces of conflict and cooperation are locked in a delicate balance. The coming months will test the resolve, wisdom, and humanity of leaders and citizens across the globe. The challenges are immense, but history is not destiny. By recognizing the dangers, learning from the past, and insisting on diplomacy over destruction, the world still has a chance to pull back from the brink and build a future defined not by war, but by peace and progress. The clock is ticking, but it has not yet struck midnight. The outcome remains in our hands.